Afternoon, everyone. That Friday feeling. There we go. So, my name's Andrew. I work for Arcadis. For those of you that don't know Arcadis, we're a Dutch company, but I'm seconded from Arcadis to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. For those of you that don't know who the World Business Council for Sustainable Development are, WBCSD, it's a membership organisation, around 200 companies, of which Arcadis is a member, mostly FTSE 500 companies. They're all members of the WBCSD to push the sustainability agenda. Within the sustainability world of the WBCSD, they have a range of clusters, strategic clusters where they look at research and they look at best practice thinking. These are their clusters for this year. So this year, but move forward. So social impact, sustainable lifestyles, climate and energy, water, ecosystems and landscape management, and safe sustainable materials. Sitting above all of that is the cities and urban regeneration world. So what the WBCSD are trying to look at is how do we drive, as a membership organisation of leading thinkers and practitioners, how do we drive the sustainability agenda and how do we support business to deliver more sustainable outcomes. Within that context, the sustainability world for the WBCSD is about understanding the role of government and local government, and that they aren't going to be the only ones to deliver sustainability. So the SDGs, post COP21, business will take a key role in delivering that, and business needs to support local government and government in addressing those agendas. Within that context, the SDGs deliver ultimately a great business opportunity for businesses to realise sustainability and realise cost saves in their world. But ultimately, there's a responsibility amongst those member companies to be doing the right thing. So we can't all be big, nasty developers. We want to see a social good and a social value, and we want to be seen to be doing the right thing. For that reason, for the WBCSD, within that sustainability world, I'll come back to development, but they're keen to define a compelling business case. So why should business take action? Why is there value in sustainability? And why are all of these member companies coming together? They want to articulate that market potential, so they want to be able to articulate that to their member companies, but also to the market, to make the market sit up and say, we should be interfacing with these guys, we should be working with these guys to understand what they're bringing, both best practice, but also unlocking the thought leadership that sits within the WBCSD, and to create that pathway, create that business case that says, well, this is the reason you should invest, this is the new business model you should take, and this is how we're going to deliver sustainability in a finance constrained world post Brexit. So within that context, sustainability and what they're trying to achieve is change the perception of sustainability as a cost to an economic opportunity. As part of that programme, they have a programme called Zero Emission Cities, and I'm going to talk about Birmingham in detail, but there's 3 pilot cities where the WBCSD have set the target. How do we make these cities zero emissions? So Amsterdam, Birmingham, and Navi Mumbai, and recently started working with San Diego in the States as well. And in that programme, the WBCSD are ultimately trying to deliver zero emission cities. So how do we work with the city to identify what their challenges are, and how do we then bring best practice solutions from our member companies as the WBCSD and from the clusters and the technical knowledge and the insight they have to that market and drive the business case for the city to invest or the private sector to step in and see what we can and can't achieve. So the ZEC is led by a member organisation, so Arcadis leads the engagement with Birmingham. And I suppose Birmingham is an interesting example because I'm going to talk about Smithfield, which is an urban centre regeneration site. It's wholly owned by the council. And from the council's perspective, I'm conscious that I'm talking on the council's behalf, but from a council perspective, they don't want Smithfield to be a commuter belt site for London, so it's going to get High Speed 2. The High Speed 2 station is within walking distance of Smithfield. So they want to make sure that it's a city centre regeneration for Birmingham, within Birmingham, for the people of Birmingham. That within that context, they, as the landowner, want to be seen to be doing the right thing. And within that context, they're looking at the business case, they're looking at the values that they can generate from taking a more sustainable approach. So we were engaged with them at an early stage around 3 priority areas: smart energy, smart mobility and smart buildings. So what you would expect. The reality of our engagement was that those 3 focus areas weren't broad enough. So we've worked with the City Council to expand that into a framework of a range of indicators looking at how they can drive their sustainability agenda. It's great to work with them because they've got their own quite stringent targets for carbon reduction and for sustainability. So we're pushing against an open door as the WBCSD in many ways to help them understand how are they going to deliver a 60% carbon reduction. How are they going to deliver their air quality targets? How are they going to outlaw diesel vehicles in the city centre, which is something they're looking to do. How do they move all of their bus fleet to electric vehicles? How do they move their whole taxi fleet to electric vehicles? How can they do that? And how can the private sector help them where they don't have any money? Which is, as you can imagine, a big challenge. So Smithfield, 14-hectare master plan in the city centre. We're conscious that the Zero Emission Cities name is a bit of a burden on our back, because is it going to be zero emissions? We're not sure. The objective is to get there. So we're working with Cofley, NG now, to look at energy systems and the finance models and the costing models to see, if they were to provide the systems, what does that look like, and is there enough capacity within the city to spec a certain bit of kit that means, that will be viable for someone to fund. Does the city put that money in themselves, or does the private sector bring that? Again, the bus fleet, the diesel fleets, how do we use this as a catalyst for Birmingham? So we've worked with them to set a range of sustainability KPIs, around 130 questions, so around 400 KPIs for the site, to deliver the strategy that says, if you are to deliver a zero emission city, this is what it could and should look like. So that's really what we're doing at Birmingham in a nutshell. So we're working with the city to drive those sustainability outcomes and get them to commit or prescribe to a level of sustainability, looking at the financing models to drive those conversations. What we've learnt from Birmingham is that by taking a very simple focus on energy or transport, that you lose a lot of gain within the sustainability world. And so we've tried to open that dialogue up into a range of different sectors, so natural capital, water, the infrastructure elements, to understand how you wrap that up into something that's compelling for the private sector. So the master plan was launched at MIPIM. How do we get the private sector excited with a local authority that's really trying to drive a truly high levels of aspiration around sustainability? Back to the WBCSD. So we're working together, and I'm seconded to the WBCSD, to understand how we drive those dialogues between cities and the private sector. So how do we, on a pre-commercial basis, define that level of understanding, so that when a developer comes along, the sustainability aspirations aren't just wiped away, that there's a robust business case and there's a robust reason behind everything that they're asking for, that will ultimately deliver them a better quality asset over the life cycle, that will then drive more sustainable outcomes. And so that framework and that vision for a sustainable city is really key to the WBCSD. It's built on their clusters, sustainable lifestyles. It's also universal, so it's not just about developed markets, it's also about third world and emerging cities. Their sustainable lifestyles piece is as much about the middle classes, 1 billion extra middle class people in the world by 2030, 2050, as also, the people that live on under $5 a day in the world. So how do we support city dwellers, people, live more sustainable lifestyles? And how do we get business excited about that and get business to invest in that vision? So our experience at Birmingham and broader as the WBCSD with member companies is that city business collaboration is key for delivering holistic solutions, and you have to understand those and go into those with an open understanding. Those clusters, the knowledge that exists within them is really important to unlock any potential. The WBCSD engages with its member companies on a kind of a pre-commercial basis. So many of the companies are taking a punt on whether there are going to be downstream opportunities and positioning themselves as thought leaders with cities to say, well, this is what you could do and this is what we've got off the shelf that maybe you can buy to provide that solution. It's also about taking positive lessons learned from other WBCSD programs and other exemplar sustainable urban developments to show and demonstrate that value and that business case for those win-win solutions for cities. And then, as I say, it's about empowering city, and at Birmingham it's been about empowering the city to make the right decisions and be able to back up their decision making with a robust business case that stacks up and that will realise the value of the site and deliver an ultimately more sustainable outcome than if they were left to their own devices. So that's it from me. Very short, very sweet. That's Birmingham, Smithfield, as I say. If you've got any questions or answers, I know we're going to open up to the panel. But yeah, if you've got any questions, either drop me an email or ask us now. Cool.